All right, guys. So, breaking news here. Spence and Serge. I'm Spence. Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham, the longtime coach of the Utah Utes, hired at the University of Michigan. It is going to be official likely by the end of the day. Now, Utah has a bowl game against Nebraska, so maybe they want to let Kyle go out there and coach the Utes in his last game. Very interesting on lots of fronts because really Kyle Whittingham, if Michigan didn't take on Kyle, Morgan Scalley, the longtime defensive coordinator of Utah, is taking over the program. So Kyle would have been out of football for this past year. So let me tell you what I think about the hire in this video. I'm very concerned about this hire for Michigan, and this is honestly a step back for Michigan in this process. It would have been easier if Sharon Moore had just, behaved, because Sharon Moore could have held down the fort another year. And really, Michigan was not proactive in this process. I believe that Lane Kiffin, if they didn't get Lane Kiffin, then they would have tried to go out and maybe hire Alex Golesh. I think that Golesh would have been the best hire Michigan could have made. But we're going to talk about Kyle Whittingham now. Kyle Whittingham, the reasons why I'm very concerned about him going to Michigan is because of age. Because of age and because of upside. So I don't like using the age argument a lot, because talking about father time and talking about age, it's depressing to talk about somebody's age and that you're older, that you can't do something. And I like to defy age in just about everything. I want everybody to be young forever, and I want everybody to still achieve. But you look at the statistics and you kind of look at where college sports is going, and everybody often says it's a young person's game. And why do they say it's a young person's game? Why is Nick Saban and Jay Wright, and you look at Tom Izzo, why are these guys in their mid-60s, why are they leaving the game? Why are they not hopping in? Look at Mike Gundy. It's because guys that have been doing this for 20 years, for 25 years, the game is changing so rapidly, you have to adapt very, very quickly. And what worked in the past no longer works now with NIL, with recruiting, and it's about salary cap management. That's what it's essentially about. And it's about being incredibly reactive and proactive, and you have to go out there and fundraise. You have to fundraise. You have to pay players. It is more of a professional model. And you also have to be, the rules change so frequently with how you are recruiting that you can't have any stubbornness about you. And it's maybe tougher for people that have done it a longer time to adapt, especially when you've been very, very successful. Now, Kyle Whittingham, nicest guy in the world by all accounts, very successful at Utah. He is a very, very good football coach. He is a legendary coach. He won a ton of games at Utah. All right? But it's kind of like saying, okay, like, is Pete Carroll like a great coach in the NFL nowadays? It would be like saying, like, Rex Ryan or Tom Coughlin. Like, are these guys, some of the best, people currently for the job? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking now about Michigan, and we're talking currently. So he has a couple of strikes against him. He's from Utah, or he's from California, and he spent he spent the last 30 years at one place, which is great, but it's Utah. His recruiting pool, now he did recruit a lot of Florida, right? People are going to talk about that with Tyler Huntley and a lot of guys that he sent to the league that are from Utah, that played at Utah. And he has some guys that are currently in the NFL that are from Utah. Like a lot are on the Bills, actually. Kincaid and Blaine Bishop, who's a safety. Huntley that I talked about. He's had Cam Rising and has had like a lot of guys, a lot of line players drafted. So he is the ground and pound coach. He is a physical kind of run game, solid defense. You know, that's what so he does fit Michigan in that way. But in this NIL space, you want somebody that is going to get in the best recruits, and you want somebody that is going to raise the program. And Michigan was talking about DeBoer and Kenny Dillingham. And DeBoer and Kenny are in the primes of their careers. They're 50 and 37 years old. So they're younger. They are hungry. They will hit the recruiting trail. They are entering into their primes, and they're going to be at Michigan if they were to succeed for 10 years. Whereas Kyle, I only see him lasting at Michigan about 4 or 5 years. I see this being a stopgap of a situation. Okay? So Kyle's 66 years old. He was going to retire at Utah, and then he was going to take a year off and maybe go to his final job in his mid-60s into his 70s. I don't know if Kyle is built for the fishbowl that is going to be Michigan, and I'm not sure that he's not going to be the long-term solution, I don't believe, at the University of Michigan. His offenses are very, very inconsistent. He's never really had good quarterback play. I mean, Cam Rising was fine, Huntley was fine, but you talk about passing game and explosive offense, which is where college football is kind of going, and it's never really happened at Utah. And he's only known about one thing. So this late in his career, is he willing to adapt? Is he going to recruit the Midwest? Is he going to go recruit the South? Okay? Look at the competitors that he's up against. You're up against Fitzgerald, who I'd rather have, honestly, Pat Fitzgerald, who's going to be very tenacious in recruiting, and they're putting a ton in the football at Michigan State. Look even at PJ Fleck, younger, really good recruiter, and who's done it at Minnesota. You look at Matt Campbell in the prime of his career also. It's scary when you look at the Big Ten and the ages of some of these coaches and just, you know, their staffs and everything. Ryan Day, I mean, you're up against Ryan Day. You're recruiting against Ohio State. So Michigan, this job is a top 5 job, and you've hired somebody that's probably, you know, the 35th best option available. And again, Kyle's done unbelievable at Utah. This is not to disparage the loyalty and how he's built this incredible, incredible program. Michigan doesn't need to be built. You don't need a builder. You need somebody that's going to put the thing over the top. You can go out there and get an elite offensive mind. You can go out there and get someone who's special at their job and who's special on one side of the ball calling plays. And Kyle was very good at Utah. He was special for Utah. He's a Hall of Famer. However, we're talking now about this current year and this current situation. Who's going to take Michigan back to a national championship contender year in and year out? And that's going to be it would have been Todd Monken. There were better options out there. Danton Lynn has a higher ceiling and upside at USC. These guys are younger, and these guys would roll. Okay, you look at the best coaches in college football right now. Let's look at the top 10 in college football. What are their ages? Okay, you look at Marcus Freeman. He's in his mid to late 30s. You look at Kenny Dillingham, mid to late 30s. You look at Lane Kiffin, early 50s, late 40s. DeBoer, late 40s. Ryan Day, mid 40s. These guys are 20 years younger than Kyle Whittingham. And these guys have also been to more places, and they've worked in the NIL sphere. You look at Dan Lanning. He's always tinkering with NIL. So Cignetti might be Cignetti is always going to be the exception. Coach Sig, the way he does things at Indiana, always the exception to the rule. And also Cignetti won more at James Madison and these other spots than Kyle's honestly won. I mean, Kyle a couple of years ago, Kyle just came off of a year where Kyle Whittingham, honestly, just 2 years ago, he was 5-7 like a year ago. He didn't even make a bowl game in the new Big 12. He was closer to Mike Gundy than he was Kyle. Okay, then he won 8-5. Then he won 10 wins. Then he won 11. And he did this in the Pac-12 and also in the Mountain West Conference. So he successfully moved Utah football from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. And that, folks, is incredible what he's done. He's kind of like Greg McDermott at Creighton. He's a legend. He's loved, okay? But is Greg McDermott right now equivalent to Dusty May in basketball? And no one loves Greg McDermott like I love Coach Mack at Creighton, okay? But let's just look at the sports. Let's look at college sports. Look at basketball. It's Nate Oates. It's John Shire. It's Dusty May. Look at football. It's Marcus Freeman. It's Ryan Day. It's guys in their mid-40s because they're really adaptive. They're going to get out there and they're going to fundraise. They're going to shake hands with boosters and they're going to recruit tirelessly. And I think that Whittingham will do that to some degree. But I also think that Kyle, like, as he's kind of gotten older, he's yielded more to a younger staff at Utah. And Michigan, it's a bad fit because Michigan still expects to go out there and compete for national championships. When I kind of look at Kyle would have ironically been really good at Michigan State because that program's fallen on hard times. They need someone to kick it back in the gear. And that's what Kyle would have done at Michigan State. Kyle's great when the program is in disarray and they're losing and losing. The ironic part about Michigan is Sharon Moore actually had the culture all right. Like, the kids are very mature. The culture is still really, really strong with Biff, with Sharon Moore. So it's not totally broken, and they're still winning 9 games with Sharon Moore. So the pressure there is to pretty much take it from the top of the top to get it even higher. So right now, this is totally a bridge hire. It's a bridge hire. And that's not exciting for Michigan fans. It's not exciting to go out there and say, okay, this he's not the long-term solution. He's not like going to be the one that I would be very surprised if Kyle Whittingham wins 2 national championships and has his name hung from the rafters. I think that this is going to be a very short stay. It's awkward. He was going to retire at Utah and then take a year off. For Kyle, I understand it because he got this awesome opportunity. He's in his late 60s. Why not? Why not try it? Why not try this opportunity? I think it's admirable for him to try it. Do I think it's going to be a home run and do I think it's going to be very, very good? I don't. I think that in a couple of years, I think Michigan is bidding their time right now. You know, for Kyle, they're just like, hold it down, placeholder, short-term solution, and then long-term, we'll eventually find the guy. So I understand it because John Sumrall, Alex Golish, these guys are in their mid-40s, in their prime, okay? Late 30s, early 40s is the prime window right now in college football coaching. And Golish was there and John Sumrall was there. And they were taken by Florida and by Auburn. And then you look at Lane Kiffin, he's Michigan or LSU. So the SEC went and got their top guys. Then Michigan could have went out there. Maybe they could have got a Bob Chesney, who Bob Chesney to me would have been a better hire. He's in his late 40s. He had it rolling at James Madison. He could have been maybe the next Cincinnati. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, also a better hire and going to be there longer. So the timing of this made it poor. For the candidates that they were looking at, I would have went Todd Monken over Kyle Whittingham. And I'll tell you why. And again, you have to separate who is a better all-time player. It's kind of like saying, would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Bo Nix? Who's a better quarterback overall? Is it Phillip Rivers or is it Bo Nix? Overall, Kirk Cousins has had a better career than, say, a Bo Nix. But, like, who would you rather have starting on Sunday? Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence playing quarterback for your favorite team? Or would you rather have a Phillip Rivers or a Matt Ryan? And that's how I look at Kyle Whittingham right now, currently, in this current state. Okay, and I hate to say this because I love Kyle Whittingham, and he's done an incredible job. And again, I could not be more in awe, and I couldn't respect more the job that he did in Salt Lake City at Utah. And everything he did is everything right with college football. I am just critical of this fit at the University of Michigan at this time. I'm doubting it. And I hate to say that. I kind of hope he proves me wrong because I want to see a guy in their mid-60s or mid-70s go out there and ball out. And it is a little different than Bill Belichick at North Carolina because North Carolina football is nowhere close in the recent past to Michigan. And historically, it's nowhere close, North Carolina. That's why North Carolina can take a really big risk on an older NFL coach like Bill Belichick. Because it's North Carolina. Because they're funky there. They do things crazy at North Carolina. And it's a basketball school, and there's not a lot of pressure. At Michigan, they're expecting immediately to win and win big. This guy was going to take a sabbatical, and he's in his mid-60s. That's the point. And it's hard because, again, I love Coach Witt. I'm just saying that this is not the right fit. And I have to be completely honest with you guys, and I have to even be honest about if Kyle were on the show, that's honestly what I'm thinking, And, like, if Kyle Whittingham went to another Big Ten place in a year, took a year off, and then I think he could coach into his mid-70s somewhere and be okay. I just don't think Michigan is the spot. If Matt Rule were to get let go by Nebraska, he would actually be a pretty decent that would be a decent spot because Nebraska football has been a mess for the past 10 years. Not Michigan football, not Jim Harbaugh, Michigan football. Todd Monken, great offensive mind and younger, and was just in the NFL. Look at Sean Lewis at San Diego State. Younger, higher upside. I want somebody with high upside. Kyle's never won a playoff game, and he's just never really – he's won a conference title pretty recently, a Pac-12 title, which is amazing. The accomplishments are great. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a college football Hall of Famer. I'd vote for him to be a Hall of Famer in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Okay, similarly, the Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers. Like, are these guys Hall of Famers? Yes. But do you want these guys now to be your starting quarterback? Or would you rather have somebody in their prime of their career? And you look at Kyle and you look at the odds against him. He's never coached in the Big Ten or the SEC. He's never really recruited the footprint before. He doesn't really know the landscape, and he's not a specialist with play calling, and he's not an NIL specialist. So the other guys that were out there, whether it be Todd Monken, of course, they talked about Kenny Dillingham. Dillingham is the polar opposite of Kyle Whittingham in this search. Kenny is younger. DeBoer is younger. They're hungry. They adapt. They're in the prime of their careers. So that's just reality. Is it reality or not reality? And that's what I'm talking about with this hire and my gut reaction to Kyle being head coach at Michigan.